This is Back Roads of Illinois server to farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and the Midwest. This edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We are bringing you lasted for farming sources and information sponsored by AgriGold. We were glad you're here on a Friday afternoon before the weekend. I am Cesar Delgado. I am your host of today's program. The Farm Bill is stalling in Congress for right now in Washington, and Commodities Corporation is much needed for this moment. We were talking about it with Dr. John Newton from Terrain Ag and the Commodities Corporations. We were bringing it up with John Newton from Terrain Ag right here on Back Roads of Illinois. The Farm Bill is stalling in Congress for right now in Washington, and Commodities Corporation is much needed for this moment. We were talking about it with Dr. John Newton from Terrain Ag. Hi, John. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Caesar. Happy to be here.
Dr. John, could you give us an update on the Farm Bill for right now in Congress? Some farmers are concerned about the ag economy with trade barriers.
Well, that's a fantastic question. I think, obviously right now where we sit with the Farm Bill, we're operating on our second 1 year extension of the Farm Bill. This current extension expires at the end of September this year. So Congress is actively working to try to move elements of a Farm Bill, and the vehicle that's moving most likely the soonest is the reconciliation package to advance key elements of President Trump's agenda. So I believe lawmakers are considering what provisions of a farm bill could potentially ride in a reconciliation package, whether that's improvements to ARC and PLC, improvements to crop insurance, investments in ag trade and promotion programs. And, all three of those things combined, I know there's a lot of concern about trade and potential retaliatory tariffs. I believe that all of this will ultimately turn into a tailwind for U.S. agriculture on the trade front, give us better market access, reduce some barriers to trade. But make no mistake, an enhanced farm bill will help farmers deal with any decline in price or any loss of markets. They could potentially, remove the need for any type of ad hoc support if you've got a really strong safety net, which is what lawmakers are trying to do.
What is your thoughts on the SNAP program for right now?
Well, I think the important thing to know about the SNAP program is a majority of the people that participate in SNAP are elderly, they're children, they're disabled. But the SNAP program is a $1.1 trillion element of the Farm Bill over 10 years. The Farm Bill itself is about $1.4 trillion. So, as the committees of jurisdiction, the Ag Committee, the Senate Ag Committee, the House Ag Committee are thinking about reconciliation. SNAP is obviously one of the elements that they're going to look at to potentially find some savings. The House Ag Committee is instructed to find, about $230 billion in savings, although I believe that they're, negotiating that as we speak because the House in total needs to find, I believe, a little more than one.
Did you talk with some people for your road trip to across the country for this meeting season about the commodities in the Farm Bill?
Absolutely. Everywhere that I went, over the last 8 months, really since taking this job, and even before that, when I worked for Senator Bozeman, the Farm Bill is a number one priority for farmers. They've seen their input costs go up dramatically since the last time we did a farm bill. They've seen the federal government had to come in a pretty big way through ad hoc support because the farm safety net tools are so outdated. I mean, that's why we had $10 billion in economic relief in the American Relief Act, is because the farm bill just needs to be updated, and we're operating on our second 1 year extension. So It's obviously top of mind with farmers across the country. They want to see a new 5-year farm bill get over the finish line as soon as possible.
What is their respective of the weight on the farm bill and the commodities markets for right now?
Well, I think it really depends on where you sit in agriculture. You know, if you're a cow calf producer, if you're feeding cattle, you're doing pretty well. You've seen record cattle prices, the last year or so. I think if you're on the row crop space, like I said, you've had 3 years with pretty tough margins, with prices below the cost of production, revenues below the cost of production. In the hog space, it's been very very cyclical. You've had some pretty tough economic environments, some short stints of profitability that ultimately get whittled away again. If you're in the poultry space, you're probably worried about avian influenza. If you're in the dairy space, you're worried about avian influenza and whether that's going to peak back up again, this migratory bird season. So there's no shortage of challenges that farmers and ranchers are facing, and they face it every single year, Caesar.
What is your final thoughts on this legislation session with the Farm Bill for this spring?
Well, I think it's not only the farm bill, Caesar. There's an opportunity to see, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act provisions that President Trump was able to pass during his first term. Those are expiring at the end of this year, and so that's one of the main efforts of this reconciliation process is to deal with those expiring tax provisions. Which, by the way, USDA's Economic Research Service said that if those tax provisions expire, it costs farmers somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 billion. So not only do you have the farm bill as an item that can move in reconciliation, you've got the tax provisions that will also impact farmers and ranchers across the country. So all eyes are on the House and the Senate to move this reconciliation package forward.
Thanks, John.
Absolutely, Caesar. Thanks for having me on Back Roads of Illinois.
This is Dr. John Newton from Terrain on Back Roads of Illinois. Thanks to John Newton from Terrain Ag on this afternoon. This has been Back Roads of Illinois. I am Cesar Delgado. You have a great